Hi.
Hi,
Hi.
Denise. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Great. Well, guys, I had a personal session with Denise not that long ago, and it was just absolutely amazing. So I want to give her a chance to introduce herself to you guys. Go for it, Denise. Uh-oh.
And
Oh, it froze
is
again.
it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh dear. Okay. I live in Lake City, Texas, which is right outside of Houston. Um, I've been a medium for past 25 years, and
Wow.
I just in the past 4 years have made myself known outside of my community, my
Okay.
little circle of friends.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's good. That takes guts. It's not easy.
No, it isn't.
So
No,
do you take clients to, for readings?
I do. Yes. Uh-huh. I
Okay.
I used to do them in my home, but over the past 3 years, I decided to not do that anymore. So I do it by phone or via Skype.
It's just as good. It really
Yes.
is. And the sitter doesn't have to like wonder if they're going to make it through traffic and if they have to wear the appropriate thing. And so, I think it's great. Do you have a website?
I do. It's deniseramon.com.
Well, that makes it easy. All right.
Yes.
And I will put that at the end of the video too, people. Okay.
Thank
Guess
you.
what? We are going, a lot of people have asked me to interview my dad because uh, I think a lot of people who seek the spiritual answers, some of them have, had a history of child abuse.
Yes.
So, or other traumatic events. So, maybe we can help them heal by getting insight from the master of all abusers. Sorry, Dad. My
That's what
father.
he said. He said from the master.
From the master. Yes, he was good at a lot of things. Hi, Dad. How are you doing?
He said hi. He's saying hi, hun. He says he's wants you to know that he's a little nervous because he told me prior to even us coming on that he is what we would consider a monster.
Oh,
With
no, no.
and
I
he
don't
said
know.
from the way he was. Erik is wanting. He's standing by, but Eric's one is saying, "Hey, mom, how's it
Hi,
going?"
baby.
He
Hi,
said
love
he
you.
loves you, and he wants you to know that he has your dad with him. So he said everything's going to be good during the session.
No, Dad, this is your chance to do a lot of healing for helping a lot of people, and perhaps even healing yourself. So let's start out with a very general question, Dad. What was your spiritual mission this last lifetime?
He said this one was really to give people. He was like he's showing me like an engineer type person, like he knew how to get things going and moving.
True.
And he says he it didn't look like it in the home, but on the out in his work life, he was able to get things going in motion. And so I'm asking him, so how is that your life purpose? He said he gave people the um, courage. He says the feeling that they could do something, but he's saying that's outside of the home life, is what he's telling me with that.
Yeah, he was a very, very talented surgeon, thoracic and
Okay.
general surgeon.
Okay. So that makes it why he's saying like an engineer, because he's showing me very methodical on how he did everything and
Oh
how
gosh, yeah, yeah.
um, he said now when it came to home, he said there was even though he came across as a very confident man,
Mhm.
he was a very insecure man.
Oh,
And that's where a lot of his struggles began and ended, was with that. um, he's telling me he wasn't when he was going to school, he didn't feel very intelligent. And so it was almost the reason why he finished school was more of a determination and to show that he was as smart as everyone else. So
Did you have any learning disabilities like Erik had, you know?
he said it took him a while to grasp things, you know, like to really, he had to understand everything. And he's saying, Denise, this is why you were thinking engineer. He had to know the ins and outs of everything before he finally understood it and could get it. So what would take some people 2 days to learn, it took him a week. So he was always on the clock.
That's interesting, because I seem to have to work a lot harder than my fellow pupils to grasp the same material too, maybe for the same reason. Is that the only reason why you feel like your self-esteem was not good?
He's showing me his father was, he's saying he was a lot like his father. So he says, passing on the family tradition, and because he's showing me that goes on with his father and his father of, you know, the lack of self-confidence, so they pour it into the next generation. He tells me that you've done an extremely good job of stopping that cycle going forward with the work that you've done.
Good. Well, I know your father, apparently, when you were making bad grades, he was kind of rude to you and said, you know, if you're a homeless person, picking lice off you or something, some really derogatory comment that must have been hurtful. But in general, he seemed to be really happy, a happy-go-lucky guy. But I guess with you, he was demanding more so than your mother?
He says they expected a lot more out of him, and I don't know if it's because he the oldest?
Yeah, and then his sister Concha was the youngest. She was the big.
Because it's like they expected him to be the ultimate best, because I don't know if they were expecting him to be take care of his parents or be the supporter or they could lean on him. He said they knew he had the potential to be whatever he wanted to be, but out of fear, again, he says he says his father would, I get like his father was physical to him when he was younger.
Could be.
So, he says that it was out of fear, and he's showing me his mother and his father were there out of fear, like they were a fear so that they would expect more out of him instead of encouraging him and showing him a better way to do things and helping him along the way. Their fear took over.
Oh, so what about your relationship with your mother? What was she like as a mother?
He says you have to remember that this was a different time.
True.
So her role was different than if it would have been today. She was a very independent woman, but she was not smothered, but like she was not allowed to express how she wanted. So she had to do a lot of things that she didn't want to do. He's telling me she really didn't like being a homemaker, that she wanted to do other things. Was she a nurse or wanting to get into nursing? Because he's showing me nursing, like that's a field that she wanted to get into.
She might have, because the whole family is into the medical, but for the most part, she was a pianist. I know she was a pianist for the National Theater of Spain, but I could see that she probably contemplated becoming a nurse. It's possible. Yeah, I don't know.
Because that's not what he's telling me as a homemaker, so all that he's telling me that she had to do a lot of that, the cooking and the cleaning and stuff like that, and she resented that. She did
Okay.
not like doing that, which and today she would not have been doing all of that. He's telling me she would have had other people to do that for her.
Well, was she very affectionate with you?
He said yes. He's showing me she was, but not overly affectionate.
Okay.
He said, because I asked him, did you know that she loved you? And he said yes. I knew he knew his mother loved him, and she was a safety net for him. And she would tell him that our father loved us all the time as well. But even I do see he's showing me some physicalness in there, in that
Okay.
relationship.
Were you here to learn anything in particular, Dad?
He said one of the things he was here to learn was compassion. One of them was, and he says, he's still is observing, and it's not that he's having to work on it like we think, but he's still having to observe it and recognize it for what it is, the compassion, because he didn't have any compassion for himself.
Yeah.
And because he didn't have any compassion for himself, it was very difficult to show that to the people that meant the most to him.
Yeah, I can imagine. How can we, here's some of these are from blog members, Dad. How can we stop the line of trauma from going from one generation to the next? If it started out as a spiritual contract of abuser, abusee, how do you stop the pattern, which often is continued generation after generation?
Erik and him are both saying that a lot of that is coming to light now because a lot of people are becoming more aware of things. They're realizing this isn't just I was dealt a bad
Hand.
a hand of cards. They're starting to become more aware of their awakeness and starting to take responsibility. Those who are being abused are starting to take responsibility as far as what is their part in it, and their part is they're showing me getting firmer boundaries and making different choices and recognizing as this isn't okay instead of saying they have to take it. They're also saying mental illness has a big play in this now because of they're saying a lot of the pharmaceuticals that we take play a big part on us, on our emotional state, our chemistry that he's showing, and how it really affects that. He's also saying that we still think success is in money, but he's also saying that right now in this time, people are realizing that even though we still equate money to success, people are realizing that it's not so much about the money, it's more about what is going on in the inside. And he says, if you notice, more men are starting to become more accountable, more interactive fathers than they used to be.
That's true. Things are changing.
And he's also shown me some of that is due to the outcry for the fathers who weren't paying child support. So it brought an awareness to the other fathers of how important their role is with their children. Okay. That's interesting how that.
Interesting, yeah. All right, well, what's your advice on how people who have been abused as children, how they can heal, and also how they can let go of resentment and forgive and let go, and all in all?
He said, well, he goes, well, in the forgiveness, he says, in the forgiveness part is not, he says, some people still think that when you forgive, you forget about it and you don't hold the person responsible. And he says, what you do is you let go of that anger that you hold to that abuse, but you still hold that person accountable for their actions. And he says it's a fine line of letting go. And he says, but how you let go of that is realize that, because we all take this real personal, that it's about me. There was something wrong with me. And then he says, the abuse you get has nothing to do with you. It all has to do with the abuser.
Yeah.
Because you could have done everything perfect and just had looked the wrong way because something got in your eye, and that could trigger somebody. So It's nothing. He said the main thing is to know that absolutely had nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
It all had to do with him or the abuser.
Okay.
And he says once you really know that, then you can start to let go and heal, because there's the people who can't let go is they're still feeling within their own self they had some part in it.
Yeah.
And that, he said, is what creates a lot of the anger and the depression.
Yeah.
In that, because you're taking on that responsibility that goes to him or to the other people.
Exactly. Well, I think I still harbor a lot of anger and resentment and have a hard time forgiving you because, being the only one in Houston, I was the one who took care of you and my sister Denise and my mother. I mean, I was there for you 24/7. I did everything for you guys. Everything. Brought you dinner, took you to doctor's appointments. I mean, there was so much. I mean, we took in your daughter, my sister Denise, when she was not able to take care of herself. And we took care of her. I straight cathed her bladder every 8 hours. She had a walker and diapers. She was really disabled. And yet, at the very end, for some reason, you got so mad at me, but I don't know why. And my other sister comes in and takes care of you when you were really sick at the last few months of your life. And you decided to give her all your money and cut the other sisters out of the will. And I don't know why you would do that to somebody who was there for you for 35 years. 35 years of devoted effort. What happened? Why were you so mad? What made you make that decision?
As you're saying that, he gets me the feeling like this has been discussed before. And he says that one of the things, he says there's a lot of answers to your question. One of them is he really wants you to know that he takes 100% responsibility for everything. He gives me the feeling of sadness, and he is very sorry for what he has done. And he got to feel all of that and see all of that. And it wasn't just, a 1 second clip. He got to really experience that. Every piece of his being got to feel that. And it gives me the feeling that was intense, the emotions that he felt, that you felt from it.
Yeah.
He said, I know this is going to sound crazy. He said, but you were his pride and joy. You were he had so much, he knew that that you were going to be something, And when he says that, like you did become a doctor, he knew you were going to do that. And he just had such high expectations for you. You were a lot like him in so many good ways. And what that did, he's saying, like what we call the mirror effect, what you did was you were showing him, not intentionally, everything that he wasn't.
Oh, okay.
And he just, did he drink?
Oh, he had a drink or two
Or
every night, but he didn't overdrink. My mother did.
did he, but did he have like some kind of pills that he would take? Because it gives me the feeling like he took something to numb him somehow.
I don't know. He took all sorts of medicines, but I don't know what they were, like blood pressure and things like that. I don't think he took like an anti-anxiety medicine or
no. He
nothing
took
like that.
something though to like numb his feelings. Something, because he's showing me like he had to do something, take the edge off of that. But he, it almost, he says it's like when you see somebody get a dress that you've been wanting, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
get it, and you can't have it, and you'll pick them apart.
Well, were you
And
jealous of me? Is that what it is?
he said absolutely he was, and
Well,
he knew
were you
that.
jealous? What were you jealous of? I mean, you were successful in your own right. What was it that I had that you felt like you didn't have? I mean, just name one thing anyway.
He said he was successful on the outside, but he wasn't successful on the inside.
Oh,
One of the things he said, that people adored you. People really loved you and liked you.
yeah.
And people didn't feel that way towards him.
Oh,
And he says, he knew your mother didn't adore him and love him and stuff by all good reasons.
did not or did?
Didn't.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And he says, like at work, everybody liked me, but he said, it's almost like he demanded. It
Yeah.
was very demanding of that. So everybody was afraid of him.
Yeah.
So they would, yes, sir, yes, doctor, yeah, and just,
Absolutely.
but that's only because it was out of fear.
Yeah, he would have a temper and throw surgical trays and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Were you afraid? Were you jealous that I'm able to be like emotionally vulnerable? Because you had a hard time with that, Dad.
He said, I wasn't like that at all. He said, you're right. He's saying that was all locked up. He said, you were able to be you from what he could, from his standpoint, you were you. He says you were authentic, you were being you, and people liked that. And he says, hindsight, where he's at now, he sees he had all of that in him. He just could not ever get into that place of being vulnerable, because he felt like if he was vulnerable, he would be taken advantage of. And he's showing me that reverts back to his childhood, because his mother couldn't be vulnerable. And his dad could not be vulnerable, because he goes, that plays on your manhood, your masculinity. If you're vulnerable, you're not a man.
Maybe it's a Spanish thing. Who knows? I mean, it could have something to do with that. Were you ever abandoned by your parents?
He gets the impression. Did they send him away to boarding school or to some?
Yeah.
Because he says then, he said, that is the worst thing you can do to your children, is send them away to a boarding school.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like nobody there cares about you.
That's so sad.
And he said, you're all alone. And he's saying, he's telling me that he said, he suffered from abandonment big time.
Were you picked on or bullied in school, or?
Yeah, he showed me when he was young. He shows me sit. He was very shy. He's showing me, and sitting in. He shows me sitting in a corner, like not so nobody would recognize him. And he said by the time he was 15 or 16, that's when he realized if he turned that around on other people, then he didn't get picked on.
Oh, all right. What did they pick on you about?
He says he was a small boy. Was he a small guy?
Yeah, he was little. Yeah.
Yeah, because he showed me he was a small boy and he was easy to be picked on. He says, but when you don't have any, but when you aren't growing up with your parents, who are the ones that are supposed to give you guidance
Yeah.
and give and talk to you about life experiences that you're going to experience through life, you don't know how to handle it. He
Yeah.
said, and the people, he said, he's saying even back then, but he's saying it's some of it still today. He said he's telling me he was sexually molested in school.
Oh no. Oh. By one of the teachers or priest or nun or
He's showing me kids.
by other kids. Oh gosh, that's horrible.
Mm-hmm. He said,
Oh,
and he said this is the first that he's had the courage to tell.
yeah. Hmm. Um,
He said he thought he was homosexual for the longest time.
because of that?
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness, poor thing.
And I'm asking, were you? And he said no, but he
Oh
thought.
no, no. Um, Now, when you were beating us, and you beat us pretty badly,
Yes, he
how
said
did
yes.
how did you feel? I mean, what was going through your mind? Did you enjoy it, or did you feel any remorse during or afterwards?
He says when the beatings are happening and the very berating and belittling is happening, it's like something snaps in
Yeah,
him. It's like split second, something snaps and then it goes.
yeah.
And then he's full blown into it.
Hmm.
And so when it's happening, it's not that he's getting enjoyment out of it. He says, it's almost like he says, what for him, it's like he reverted back and he's showing me like to a teenage kid and he's able to like turn that story around and be the one taking care of beating the other person for beating him up. And
Oh,
so he's reverting back to that moment why he's beating you and berating you and everyone else. Afterwards, he said it's not long afterwards, like an hour, if that long, he showed me, because I get like within the hour. Then the remorse,
yeah.
big time, and the shame. Really, he said the guilt. The guilt is overwhelming, and
Mm.
he says, Denise, that's where you get like there was a pill or something, because there was a pill that he would take to help alleviate that.
Okay. Well, I know he gave us a pill to take down the swelling and stuff, so we go to school and not look like we're beating uh, paste, I think it was called. Yeah. It's from papaya extract or something.
He's telling
Um,
me, yeah, he's telling me that he says he he his behavior was of a monster, like what we would consider a monster, on how he treated.
mm. Well, I
And
think you were just
he's
that
glad you're
person. You were, yeah,
he's glad that you're putting a voice to him and to the situation,
yeah.
because he said it's very hard for people to put a voice to what had happened, and he wants you to know that he admires your courage to be able to bring this forth.
Well, I admire your courage for actually talking about this. I mean, you're being vulnerable, Dad. You're being authentic. You're telling the truth, and you know that's something to be admired. Better late than never.
I laugh, but he's like, he's going, he doesn't see it as that. He sees it as he owes this to you.
Oh, that's sweet. Now, did you really want children at all? Or was it like mom wanted them or something?
He said he really did want children.
Did you love us ever?
He said with all his heart.
Oh. Were you upset that you never had a son?
He said at the time he was, because it's he goes, there it goes again to it's a male ego thing. It's
Yeah.
like you have to have a boy to continue the legacy, a boy to go fishing with, a boy to do, he's saying play golf. Did he play golf?
Yeah, he did
Because
for
he's
a
sitting
little
there
bit,
and play
but
golf.
he did all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's just telling me this, but he's saying, even if he had a son, he wouldn't have done all those things with him anyway.
Why?
Because he said he wasn't very interactive with the family that much.
Yeah. Why?
Because it put him in a vulnerable state that he was so uncomfortable being in.
I
Because
see.
if he was interacting and involved with the family, that meant he had to deal with emotions. And emotions is one thing he was completely cut off from.
Oh, okay. How do people who are abused, some of them feel this sense of worthlessness when they experience child abuse. What advice do you have for those people?
He's telling me that there's a technique which I'm aware of too. It's called the tapping.
Oh yeah, tapping. Yeah.
Yeah. He said that.
Yeah. Okay.
He says that's real good because there's a lot of the abuse that he's showing me that locks up in different parts of your body.
Oh yeah.
And
That's
he
true.
says that's a good way to get it out.
The energy gets trapped. And then there's something called the Grinberg method if you have trapped energy. So
yes. He says there's not just one way to do things. He says there's several ways.
Yeah.
But he said some people, need to go into counseling. He said, but he highly recommends doing some of these other approaches like you mentioned and the tapping. I get the feeling like doing something that's equivalent to this new hypnosis that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
He said something of that. He said that's real similar to like what I would call soul retrieval, because there's parts of you that you split off from.
Oh, interesting.
And he says to get that back.
Okay.
And he says, and you can work through things, but you got to get those pieces of you back that you just cut off from because it was too painful for you to keep. He says, like getting in touch with that 2-year-old that was abused, or that 10-year-old that had their head cut open or something, or that 12-year-old that was locked in a closet or something, and he said that's a good way. And also, especially, he says, talking about it like you're doing, talking about it.
Yeah. Okay. Why were you an atheist? And did that have anything to do with you abusing kids, your children?
He said that being atheist doesn't make you abuse kids, because he says there are a lot of atheists around now that don't behave like that at all.
Okay.
And they're very loving to their family and also to themselves. For him, he said it had to do with he just didn't have a belief in anything unless he could see it.
Oh,
And he said if he was to go that route, to even think about believing in something else, then that meant he had to put himself in a vulnerable position to trust.
Yeah.
And he didn't trust nothing and no one.
Yeah.
He said he barely trusted himself.
A couple of things that really, really hurt me was when anytime you felt down, you would say, I should pull an Erik and blow my brains out. Or when one time you said, if you had taken care of Erik, then he wouldn't be dead. That was so hurtful. Why would you do something like that, Dad?
I know, I just told him that was real crappy.
It was so hurtful. I mean, I
Yeah.
just lost him,
Yeah.
And your first words to me were, sorry, Lisa, but Erik's got to turn to dust. Right after I told you he was dead. I don't understand.
He's just telling me that, yes, he did it to be mean and hateful. But the bottom line for him was that was a very frightening time for him.
Why?
Because he could see how vulnerable somebody can be, and how he said he didn't show it, but when Erik decided to cross over, that really showed him how fragile life really is.
Oh, yeah.
And it scared him, because he's telling me he thought of suicide many times.
Yeah, he talked about it, yeah.
And he's saying, so it's easier. He says it's kind of like when you're at work and somebody's always late and taking 3-hour lunches and doing whatever and cheating on the time clock. And then somebody else comes in late, another coworker comes in late. So you put the spotlight on them so they don't look at you. And that's basically what he's telling me is what he was doing, was he was putting the spotlight on that situation so nobody would look at him, and almost like numbed his pain in a way. And he said that there's no excuse though for that, because I'm sitting there thinking that was just really hateful. And he said that there's nothing good. There's not a good explanation for what he did other than it was mean and hateful. But he does want you to know where it came from, because and he says this is, again, the abuse is all about the abuser. It has nothing to do with you. And Erik's got his arm around him saying, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, he'll be all right. So there wasn't one trigger that made you do what you did at the very end and leave all your money to one person and take Terry and I out of the will? And why you were so mad at me and wouldn't let me be by your bedside when you died? I just don't know what that was. Did I say something? Did somebody tell you some lies or rumors about us? What's that all about?
He's telling me that there was some involvement with the changing of the names.
Mm-hmm. There was some what?
Some involvement with him changing the
What do you
will.
mean?
Somebody was helping him to only put it in one sister's name and not have it in your name or the other one.
Who was that? Was it a family member or the lawyer?
I get that it was a family member.
Okay.
And it was out of greed.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And but he gives me the feeling like that greed is or has gotten the best of them, because there's not a whole lot of that money there. He said, did you do anything to create that? he gives me the impression like he wasn't all 100% in his mind, his correct mind.
Okay, that could be.
And that there's still some jealousy that was about you.
Jealousy from of him toward me, or this other sister and me,
I'm
or what?
getting the other sister. There's some
Oh
jealousy.
yeah, yeah.
And so, and then again, he goes, there it goes back to fear, and there was some fear. And
Fear,
so,
fear of not having enough.
yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly it. That's
Okay,
exactly it.
that's right. Does somebody, a relative in Norway, have anything to do with it? I won't mention names.
I don't get that it was that far. I get more here.
Okay. Now,
More here.
describe your transition. I mean, you were an atheist, all of a sudden, ta-da! I mean, what was that like, man? I mean, it must have been some surprises there.
Well, he's telling me it wasn't like when he died, he transitioned, and it was, well, he said it wasn't like that.
Okay, tell
He
me.
said, he's telling me he had a very challenging time going there because he said your ego, as he goes, as you know, he's telling me, is still with you. And he had a very challenging time going to that door, so to speak, because he didn't feel like, he knew he wasn't worthy of it. His
Oh,
humanness, he knew he didn't belong there.
were you
And
afraid you were going to go to hell?
he said that didn't cross his mind. But he says when you're going, like he says, like what people say they're going to the light, you feel this immense peace. Like he said, words really can't describe it here. You feel this immense peace, and you still have your ego, so you're like, that guilt and shame is still there. So you're like, it's your ego's telling you you can't go there.
You're saying you're not worth the unconditional love and peace that you feel?
Yes,
No?
yes.
Oh, okay. So
And
what?
so,
Okay, go ahead.
so as he's traveling, as he's going, I'm asking him, like, did it take you days or whatever? And he's not real clear on that.
It's hard because there's no time,
Right, because there's no time. I'm asking him, like in our time, like a week or so. It took him a while. He says now he wasn't just floating there doing nothing.
Yeah.
But Erik is telling me he was there with him.
Yeah.
That's what Erik is telling me.
Who else was there?
Erik is saying that it did take him, like equivalent to like about 2 weeks in our time, 2 weeks, but over there it's not that long, He's showing me, Erik is showing me a grandmother, so I'm assuming his mother was over there. Yeah, his mother was there. Like it was Erik and his mother. And Erik is showing me like he's holding his hand out going, come on, it's okay.
Yeah.
And because he's telling me it was a shock to see Erik because, he didn't believe.
Oh my God, that's so true. Through somebody else, he said that he just thought he was hallucinating until he saw Erik. And he said, because he wouldn't have even bothered thinking about Erik because Erik was not important to him. So he wouldn't bother having him in a hallucination, basically.
Yes.
So seeing Erik was when he started thinking, wow, that might be life after death. Is that true?
Yes. He's saying that's, and I have chills all over me. He says that's when he started reaching out, like what we would assume reaching out his hand, what we imagine it. And then that's when he said he could see his mother. And then he didn't want to see his father because his father, he said, would have scared him. So it was the people that that were meeting him that he knew loved him on the other side. And so when he was seeing this, then he started seeing but then he started seeing other clusters of the soul group that from previous lives.
Okay.
And that's what was really pulling him even more forward.
Was my mother there, and my sister Denise?
Definitely, your mother was there, and then because Erik is showing me, and he's showing me like Erik, and then he's showing me a mother, and then they were there. They were lined up like it's like as he was coming, they were peeking around each other's head, coming in and that.
Oh, okay. That's funny. What's your relationship now with Mom and Denise and Erik?
He said, well, now that I got he's saying an overhaul of his thinking and believing, he says, because now that he sees everything, of course his relationship with Erik is like what anyone hoped it would be, because he says they're very close. Erik is very gentleman-like, like letting him have the whole conversation, like sitting back.
Sweet.
I know, I'm just like,
he knows how hard this is for Poppy.
Yeah, Erik's very, very, very sweet, kind gentleman as this is happening. Him and Erik are very close.
But they were the closest of. He was closest to Erik as far as grandchildren go.
Yeah, he said that they're real close. He said, of course, Erik didn't hold any animosity towards him because Erik understood everything.
Sure.
But he said he did, for how we would interpret it, is he made amends to Erik and stuff. He also, he's letting me know that he had a big part in your journey getting to where you are, is to helping you find the people you needed to work through the pain of Erik.
My dad has something to do with it?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Interesting. So, so he's working. Well, let me finish how's your relationship with Mom now and with Denise?
He said all of that, of course it's real good because we understand everything. We understand the full picture. And he says, we both fulfilled our role perfectly.
Yeah.
And he said, so what we were wanting and needing to get out of that, we did. And he gives me the feeling that he's going to want to reincarnate here again to kind of make things better, like, okay, let me do it again. Because he gives me the impression that he could have done things a little different.
Yeah. Why did Mom have? Oh yeah, and your relationship with Denise, y'all hang out together, and
he said, Denise works real heavily with the disabled.
Oh,
people.
That makes sense.
And
living ones, obviously, because you're not disabled.
He works. She works a lot with some things with helping research, but she also works in that over here helping, because she didn't get to. I feel like she crossed over prematurely, so she didn't get to finish what she really wanted to do.
Okay.
She got to experience it physically, what it was like to be disabled, she's saying. But now she wants to help with this because there's so much that could be prevented.
Yeah.
If we only knew.
Oh, yeah. Were you really sad when she died, Dad?
He said, like you were with Erik.
Oh, wow. Because, I mean, it seems like you recuperated so quickly.
He
Oh,
said
no.
that he was real
Not
good
being
at,
vulnerable. Not being vulnerable.
he
Yeah.
was very good at detaching.
Yeah. Um, why did Mom develop dementia? I have some ideas, but I want to see what you have to say. I mean, on a spiritual level, not a physical level.
He said, he's telling me she developed it because she was just ready to check out.
Why?
She just, um, had enough. And he said she had, this life was very hard for her with him
Yeah. Okay.
and the children. He's telling me everything was on her to do.
Mm.
And he said, there's also some, he's telling me some deficiencies within her that
Okay.
also that people are discovering about, that has to do with dementia and Alzheimer's.
Okay.
That was what he's saying, like a earth thing or a human thing that helped create that.
Okay.
Um, um, but she definitely was tired and was wanting to go.
Yeah. Was it mostly because sometimes you were not very nice to her? Or was it because, you had a hard time, she had a hard time with kids like Laura running away and just, all that? Was it all the above? Or was
He's telling me it was all of the above, but it also was a lot to do with, she had felt from when she was a young girl that she never really had a voice and could say what she wanted to do with her life.
Okay.
And I'm saying, did she want to get married? And he's like, of course back then that's what you do, but
Yeah.
she had so many, had so many great ideas and so many dreams and desires that she wanted to do, and she just wasn't able to do those things because she had to follow the protocol of what you do back then.
Oh, okay. All right. Do you think that she regrets marrying you?
He said while she was here, she did, in the middle of the marriage, she definitely regretted because she felt like she let all of you children down because she couldn't protect you.
Okay.
And she couldn't even protect herself. And he tells me that's why she drank, because it just made it easier for her.
Yeah. Were you ever unfaithful to her?
A lot.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yes. We thought so. Okay. Did you ever meet God or Jesus or anybody else? And then I have to close pretty soon. We might have to have a part two. I've got so many questions for you, dude.
He said when you meet God, you're wanting to know, did he meet a person or whatever?
Oh,
But
no,
he,
no. No, I'm talking about
okay.
source energy, what?
Yes, he says you do. It's this presence, and he's given me like it's this illuminating, just really bright energy that's he's showing me like it's this energy. It's like sparkles. It's just like nothing like you see here on earth. And he says even people like me have no doubt that that is God.
Yeah. Wow. That must have been amazing.
He said it he said if it's just, we wouldn't be able to contain that kind of energy feeling in our
Oh, yeah.
humanness, because he said it is just such an intense, overwhelming experience. To he said, especially when you first cross over and you get to feel that. He says that's why he was kind of like eased into it. Did he meet Jesus? He was introduced to what we call Jesus.
Okay.
You know, he was introduced to him. And I get Erik says that they introduced him into Jesus because of his rigidness, because he was so anti, that they were like reacquainting him to people.
Oh, I see. Are there any other really notable figures that you have palled around with and really enjoyed discussing philosophy with or getting to know?
He's showing me back in the Roman days. I don't know who they are, but he's showing me there's some people back then that he really liked. When I say the Roman days, but it's almost like people where he's showing me that, and that's not even the Roman days, but maybe it's the same time frame. But he's showing me people that interacted with other light beings with the pyramids. Like he interacted with, so he could discuss things, because it's like to talk about things that he likes to interact with them.
Oh, okay. How about, I think somebody said that you did talk with Roman philosophers, like you had discussions with like Socrates, maybe, I think it was, or Plato, or.
He said yes. And then so I'm asking him, well, how did you get the Roman, but then you're showing me pyramids? And he's saying because he did both, is what he's showing. Because I was like, I didn't understand that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. Okay, I think we'll close up here, and I'll just have to have a part 2. But Denise, anything else you want to tell people? I'm going to put your website up here. But she's open for readings. You guys, she's awesome. And everything she said just made a lot of sense. I really appreciate it, Denise. And Dad, I want to say thank you for showing the courage. I'm working on forgiving you and letting go of the resentment, although, the whole last things that happened made it kind of difficult. But, yeah.
He says he loves you, and he's going to be with you while you're working through this so that you can let go of this.
Okay.
Because there's no part of you is responsible for it.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. Anything else you'd like to say, Denise, for Erik?
Erik says, I love you, Mom. He's saying thank you. And he's just so proud of you, the way he's like, you did it, Mom. You did it. That's what he's showing, what he's doing.
Oh, well, go give Poppy a hug. He probably needs it.
Yeah, they're sitting together, but Erik has got his big shoulders there, like he's protecting you in a sense.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, he's sweet, very sweet.
Okay. Anything else you want to share, Denise?
No, the thing though I get is that we can't, not to take any of this stuff personal. This really really doesn't have anything to do with us. And I love that he reiterated that.
That's good. That's really could be healing for a lot of people. Yes. And we've got other things that we're going to talk about in the next session, but have a very good evening. And thank you, Denise. I'll put this out there, and people have really been looking forward to this. So thank you for this.
Well, thank you. I feel very honored to do this. Thank you.
All right, girl. Have a good week.
You too. Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye.